Hi, Guy. Welcome to the podcast.
Great. Really good to be here. Thanks very much, Danielle.
Yeah, you're welcome. Where are you coming to us from today?
I'm sitting in the office in Sydney, so in the middle of a work day or getting to the end of it. Got my swim in this morning, so I felt good for the day and been looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, where did you get your swim in this morning?
I went to Tattersalls Club, where it's a really good team we've got there at the moment with a few familiar names like Chris Feidler and Daniel Kowalski and James Hickman. And we also have, some great ocean swimmers like John DeMester and Justin Hanby. So it doesn't matter if you're a pool swimmer, an ocean swimmer, a surf swimmer. It's just a great crew to be training with.
Sounds really good. Do you have a coach there or are you just self-coached?
Well, between Chris Feidler and James Hickman, normally they kind of take over the writing of the workouts, and the rest of us follow or don't follow in my case. But we sort of take turns, and it's really good because whoever's got the meet coming up or the competition coming up, we sort of gear the training towards them. So there's a lot of support going towards John DeMester. He's heading off to Worlds to do the 3,000 and in the long distance swimming, and so we're doing a few more 400s and 500s than usual just to get him ready.
That sounds good. Is anyone else heading over to Japan next month?
Not really from Tattersalls, just a small contingent.
Yeah, sounds really good. And you raced on the weekend in the New South Wales Masters relay meet. How did that go?
Oh, it went well, sort of dusting off the cobwebs. Really, the first couple of races for this year. I had an injury last year, so just coming back. But, I love to race. I love being in the relays with teammates, and good to get some exercise and try to sprint, and good to have a laugh around the pool and the blocks as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
But it was good. Really good.
Yeah, it looked like a good meet. Do you race under the Tattersalls banner?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And we've got enough swimmers that we can mix and match. So, different relays and different strokes, and we normally had a good time when we're out there.
Yeah, is it an all guys team?
No, we've had some mixed teams in the past, more the mixed and the guys than I'd say the dedicated women's team, but we have a few women in the team as well.
Yeah, sounds good. And what's a typical training week look like for you at the moment? Because I know you're busy with work and you've got young kids and family life. How do you fit it all in, and what does it look like?
Oh, look, I think that's the beauty of Masters swimming, is that there doesn't need to be a typical training week. You sort of go with it when you get the time, and other times, it could be family or it could be work. They take you away from the pool, but the number one rule is keep showing up.
Yes.
So, you have weeks where you're getting really good mileage, and other weeks where you struggle to get there. But every day that you make it there is a better day. So just keep showing up. And the value of being on a team is people often reach out to you in between the training sessions if they haven't seen you for a while, and give you the right level of encouragement to get there.
Yes.
But what do I try to aim for? Like, ideally, I'd like to get 3 or 4 sessions in a week, and typically they're about 3K. So you're probably doing 10 to 12K. On top of that, we're all doing a lot more, I'd say, of the pre-work before we get in the pool. So the band work, the stretching work, and as I get a little bit older, I recognise the importance of keeping strength up. So I try to hit the weight room as well. But you're probably getting to the gym/pool, I'd say 4 times a week in a good week.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty typical of a lot of master swimmers, and no wonder you're all swimming so fast.
Yeah, look, you try to keep swimming fast, and part of that I think is the attitude and the silly belief at this age that somehow your best swim is still ahead of you. I don't know if it's your fastest swim, but it could be your best, depending how you measure it. But kind of keeps you going. I think it's great for everybody, no matter what your level is or what your stroke or what you're aspiring to do, to have a little goal in there. Just kind of keeps you honest on the journey and gives you something to aim for.
Yes. What's the next big goal on the horizon for you?
I don't know if there's a big goal. Like if I look out far enough, it's probably 2025 when I move up an age group, which sounds daunting, but I move into the 60s then. So you start to think about. I think Worlds are in Singapore then, but there's a lot of mini goals between now and then. And I really like the ones which you're able to do with your teammates and, try to pick a relay here or there where you think you can do something special. But otherwise, just trying to get a little bit faster and all those little things in terms of, working on your starts and your streamlines and your breakout strokes. And it's all those little pieces, I think, when you're trying to sprint fast that collectively add up and make a difference.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned James Hickman and Chris Feidler, and you had a third guy in your relay from last year, Peter Thiel, that broke the world record in the 4x50 freestyle relay. Tell us about that great experience, because that was really exciting. And what kind of training did you do leading up to that race?
Yeah, it was great. We started sort of getting the idea for the meet, I'd say, or for the relay, probably in about March. So it was kind of a late relay team that came together, and we started doing a few of the meets, like the New South Wales state champs relay meet that was on this weekend, and just sort of started making sure we had the right age, because you only move through these windows of opportunity in the Masters relays, but because the aged groups are 40 years apart, you kind of need everything to line up nicely. And, we were especially proud. We did it with no ring-ins. We did it with the team that we work out with. We actually had one hit out at SOPAC, the Sydney Olympic Park Aquatic Centre. We missed it. And then the joy was we looked at the meet calendar, and the next meet was up at Woy Woy in regional New South Wales. So we sort of packed up the caravan. We changed the order. We worked a lot on the changeovers, and Chris had us doing some really high quality sprint work just to get the edge back, and it all came together beautifully. It was just a great swim, and what we thought we might just scrape under, but we beat it by 1.5, 2 seconds, and like all good relays, everybody did their bit.
What was the reasoning behind changing the order?
We led off with James Hickman the first time round. I think there was a couple of reasons. One is James is much better with a flying start, and then Chris also, he turned 50 last year and thought he'd have a crack at the individual world record. So we moved him forward, and he led us off in a blistering time and beat Rowdy Gaines' 50-metre world record. And then James at the back went just as fast, and Peter and I were in the middle trying to hold it together. It was a lot of fun, and the joy here is in achieving the goal, but doing it in the relay, it just makes it all that much more special and enjoyable.
Yeah, it's great to do it with mates, and I think it does make it much more special, doesn't it, than an individual? Mm-hmm. Although an individual is also fantastic, and you actually got one of those back in, am I right in saying 1990 or something around there? You got a world record when you were about 25, was it?
I got two, actually.
You got two?
I got from memory, I got the 100 IM, and that was about 57 seconds, and then I got the 50 breast, which I think I went about 28, which at the time was only about 1/10 off the open record. So it was a fun meet, and both records are still standing, which is Australian records, not as world records. So that's 33 years later. So I'm sure they'll get beaten at some point in time, but nice to see them still standing up.
Nice that they're still standing. And was that at the old State Swim Centre in Batman Avenue?
That was the Frank Burrapair pool, or the State Swim Centre as it became, and obviously demolished now, I think, as part of the development around the tennis centre. But it was where a lot of mornings and afternoons were spent training, and it was kind of the home of all the competitions in Victoria.
Yeah, it was a funny old pool. I remember sort of like looking across, and there's a big gap in between the wall and the railway yards. Sometimes you could see a train
Oh,
going past in that little
you
gap
could see
there.
the train going by. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was only a stand on one. There weren't many windows or much air
Yes,
circulating.
that's right.
And so in summer, it sort of turned into this sauna. And if you wanted to cool off at all, you had to go out in the street and sort of try to bring the temperature down in between events. But, all of those things are part of the rich tapestry of growing up as a swimmer, I think.
That's true, yes. And you mentioned earlier you had an injury that you're recovering from. What happened and how's the rehab going with that?
I think as you get older, and if you've been doing it long enough, injuries are just part of sport. And of course, I had an injury that was totally unrelated. I snapped my Achilles on a island 3 hours north of Cairns. I wish I was doing something miraculous, but I was just being a little bit silly, and off it snapped. I knew it instantly, and then I had to take the plane back to Cairns, the plane back to Sydney, and wait till the end of the week and have surgery. So, when I raced this week, where you notice it is not so much in the kick, but just the transfer of weight on the starts. It's on my front foot, not my back foot. But as I start to push, still a little bit slow in getting the power, I think, off the blocks. But good to be back. It is part of competition, part of sport. So you just sort of roll with it, do the rehab, and enjoy the journey.
Yes. What kind of rehab have they had you doing?
Well, a lot of it's just basic stretching exercises, calf raises, all those sort of things. 2 years before that, I had a pretty complete reconstruction of the right shoulder, so that was harder. Just a lot more work done, and it's really hard to get in the pool when you can't use one arm. So that was a much more difficult recovery, but it sort of taught me that if you go through the rehab and you follow the discipline of dedicating yourself to getting better, good things can happen. So it was only 2 years after that we broke the world record. So
Yes.
sort of carefully optimistic that we'll be back from the Achilles in another good 12 months as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And ready for Singapore.
Ready for Singapore and whatever else is between now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever been to any other Masters World Championships?
I have never been to a Masters World Championships ever,
Yeah.
anywhere. So, just between, I think life, work, the age group you're in, where it's located, whether or not you're in shape at the time. As I said, all of that becomes part of Masters swimming and how you juggle it and balance it. And, so I find you kick up this base level of training and the occasional competition, but you become a little bit more like a boxer. You almost need a campaign. You sort of have a goal that's in the more immediate horizon, and then you get everything organised and you can push a few of those other things out of the way and reprioritise and get everything lined up and go for it. And that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. I love that perspective. I think that sounds great. And I know you mentioned you swim at Tattersalls in Sydney, but I know you're also a fond swimmer at Bondi Icebergs. How is the training different there in the outdoors? It's a saltwater pool as opposed to Tattersalls, which is a chlorinated pool. How do you find those two differences and fit that into your week?
Yeah, I think the whole Bondi Icebergs thing. When I was living in Dallas, immediately before I moved to Sydney, I was training with Jim Montgomery's squad, and I didn't know anyone in Sydney. And he said, "Well, if you don't know anyone, the one person you need to know is Neil Rogers." And Neil, of course, is the coach at the Bondi Icebergs. So that's sort of how I fell into the Icebergs. And there's a couple of aspects to it. One is the training. And that is the joy of swimming in salt water with waves crashing over the edge. So what becomes more important than the time or the pace clock there is really taking your turn at leading and the people you swim with. And it's a really diverse mix of people down there. Some great ocean swimmers. You've got Simon Nothling, who in the surf is just a a beast. You've got Keith McDonald, who does all the ocean swims. You've got Joel Mabry, who's a living legend of the icebergs. So you've got the training there. And the perfect way to finish a week is to go down there on a Saturday morning and you kind of forget about everything else that's happened that week and you jump in the squad and just have a really good session. It's always an hour. It's always sort of 2.5 to 3K, and you rotate the lead and forget about everything that's happened. And then you've got the other aspect of it, which is the Bondi Icebergs on Sunday, where to be a member, you have to show up 4 out of 5 Sundays through winter for 5 years. So you've got to get your 100 swims in, and there's no shortcut. You've just got to be there, and that in itself is just a great thing. All the races are handicapped, and scattered amongst that, you still have all the age group championships, the 40 and 50 metre open champs, and the national champs, and some fun events like table relays, etc., that make it, it's an institution down there, and I guess part of living in Sydney as much as it is part of the swimming community. So they're different but very complementary. We're probably more focused at Tattersalls and enjoying life more down at the icebergs.
Well, I think that's a pretty nice way to be, because it's such a beautiful pool to swim in, fantastic outlook. Yeah. So I think that's great to have that mixed in with your serious training as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple of other groups. There's a group at the Sydney Football Stadium, and tend to show up there. I think what saved us during lockdown in Sydney was a group of us who all lived within 5 kilometres of Coogee, so we'd swim in the ocean every day. Most of us were no wetsuits, but it kind of gave you something to do and something to look forward to. There's also a group of old swimming legends, Graham Brewer, Matt Renshaw, Andrew DeVries, and we get together. We call ourselves the monthly swimmers, and the first Wednesday of every month we find a pool in Sydney and go and have a swim and head out and have a pub meal afterwards. So, there's a lot of these swimming groups, and all of them play an important role, and they're all slightly different, but they give you diversity in your workouts each week, and just give you a rich and robust group of friends to enjoy the sport with.
Yeah, it sounds like a great tapestry of different people that you've got swimming with you. So no wonder you're so excited and passionate about it.
Yeah, if you look back at, certainly if I look back at my life, like all of my best friends and long-standing friendships were basically through swimming. So you're sort of touching on those everywhere you go, be it Tattersalls or the icebergs or the monthly swimmers, or, even when I'm down in Melbourne, I'm travelling, I still come back to the Malvern swimming pool.
Yes.
So that's been my home club since I was 6, and still see the same people.
Yes, yeah, it's a great pool to swim at. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, you just mentioned then, or alluded to it, that swimming's been such a big part of your life, and you were a top level national age grouper as a kid, and then went to the Institute of Sport in Canberra in what I suppose is its heyday, because it's sort of petered off a little bit now. What was that experience like, being at the Institute, and what's your sort of favourite memory from that time?
Oh, it was sort of a mecca of Australian swimming at the time. It had only started in the early 80s, and I went there in 84, and you had, Dennis Pursley as the head men's coach, and, John Rogers, who's still training Olympic medalists. And so, you had the best of the facilities, the best of the coaching, and then the squad was just amazing. You think of Mark Stockwell, Greg Fasala, Graham Brewer, Ron McKeon, Rob Woodhouse, and it sort of went on and on. So, to be able to train in that elite company was just exceptional. And I think if there's a couple of things I learned from my time there, it was, inspiration and hard work. And when you're looking at those names, I just mentioned that, they're all so inspiring. They're all reaching for the very top of the sport globally, and the hard work that was put in. And Dennis was known for just how, hard his workouts were. I think the busiest week, and this was in the breaststroke lane, the busiest week we had was 110 kilometres. So, you were certainly putting the miles in. 12 400s breaststroke. I remember once 3
Oh,
1500s breaststroke kick.
oh, what a
And all of
killer.
that was during Hell Week. It was, it was, as I said, inspiration and hard work.
Yeah. What a time to be there. I think they're trying to build it up again now, but it definitely petered off in the last sort of last decade or so.
Yeah, it did. I'd say what's taken its place is sort of, that focus in southeast Queensland that swimming has.
Mm,
And it's not one venue anymore. It's sort of multiple coaches and multiple pools. But, that's probably the closest we've got at the moment.
yeah, absolutely. And from there, you got a scholarship to the University of Hawaii, a swimming scholarship. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was great. It was life-changing in so many ways. If I sort of look back, there was so many dimensions, to start with, when I accepted the scholarship, I'd never been to America, so it was kind of, a step into the great unknown. And back then there was no cheap flights, no Facebook, no WhatsApp, no mobile phones. So you're literally moving to a country where you didn't know anyone without the ability to have this sort of regular interaction with your family and friends. And that in itself was a learning experience and a fantastic opportunity. Fortunate that the way the US college system is set up, you can really combine your studies with your swimming, and that suited me really well. And I was able to get a degree from University of Hawaii and go on get a graduate degree from UCLA. I love the team nature of swimming that exists in college swimming, where basically you'll be asked to swim any event in a dual meet or at a conference meet or at NCAAs to help the team. So it was team first, individual second. And then I also loved the short course, high sprint and everything that comes from that, including more work in the gym. And, you put all those together and the fantastic people that were on the swim team. And it was just a very rich experience that I like to think changed me for the better.
Yeah.
Still in touch with all of my teammates from back then on a regular basis. I think it's 40 years next year since we won the conference championships, and we're having a little reunion
Oh,
over there.
nice.
So
That'll be nice. Nice to catch up with them all. And with your
that'll
time
be great.
there, when you were swimming the NCAA competitions, did you have to go across to the mainland for those?
Yeah, I mean, we travelled, probably did 2 main road trips a year, maybe the conference meet and the NCAA meet, and then Hawaii had a lot of teams come out over the Christmas season to have training camps in Hawaii. So there were dual meets set up there and the Hawaiian Invitational as well. So, whereas in Australia growing up, you sort of had states and nationals. Over there, you were racing, it seemed like all the time. And the depth was such that you're always racing somebody who you've never heard of, who was just as likely to beat you. So you had to constantly get used to standing up, no matter how you felt or where you were in the training cycle, and just pushing yourself to go hard and to race fast. And that was always good experience. So I think it genuinely gave me the love of racing. Like I still just love getting up and seeing where you're at and testing yourself, and somehow mentally trying to convince yourself that you've still got it when the body might be failing or you haven't quite done the work that's needed. So, the mental side of racing is great.
Yeah. I mean, I think that whole idea of racing all the time, as you say, maybe when you're not feeling so well or not at your peak, is something that college system really drives home, and it's something that I think we're missing a bit in Australia. We don't race as much as the Americans race.
And even when we do, we're sort of racing against the same people. So you know how they race, you know what their best times are. And there was just so many people who were racing at such a good level over there that, as I said, you were never safe.
Yeah.
And, they could put the IM specialist in the breaststroke to try to win some points, and, that person's dropping big best times. So, you were always trying to race. It was really good.
Yeah, what a great experience. And how long after your time there did you move into Masters swimming? Did you have any gap, or did you go straight from uni into Masters?
Well, I quit for a while. I graduated in '88, so I had a final race, which I think was Olympic trials in '88 back here, and then just sort of did nothing for a while. And then, I was back in Melbourne. I got back in the pool, actually had surgery on a deviated septum, and then sort of got back in. That was the year I ended up winning nationals in the Open Nationals in the 50 breast over in Adelaide, and then just sort of rolled into Masters, and then went back to UCLA for grad school to do my MBA, and I was assistant coach of the men's team to the great coach Ron Sticks Bellator, and then some of the guys there started getting me into Masters swimming. So my first Masters meet was that meet where I set the 2 world records, and then my second Masters meet was US Nationals with some of the old UCLA swimmers, and just sort of stuck at it. And as I said, it's not all the time, but you keep showing up, you stay constant, you keep a base level of fitness, and then when the opportunity presents itself and the team comes together, you get into a bit of serious training and go for it.
Yeah. How long were you?
I've been doing Masters swimming for 30 odd years now.
Yeah.
Hard to believe.
That's well, you've got a love for it, so that's amazing. How long were you over in America for after you'd done your graduate degree?
I moved down to Dallas, and so I lived there for about 3 years. So all up, I was in the States for about I think around 11 years in Honolulu, LA, and Dallas.
Yeah. And what's the difference that you see between American or US Masters swimming and Australian Masters swimming? That you've done both, so
probably they're more organised. I also coached at Southern California Aquatic when I was over at UCLA, so I do UCLA the day programs, and then coach and swim evening with SCAC. But they're so more organised. They have so many more swimmers. At times they take it a lot more seriously, whereas I think for us it's more of making it part of your lifestyle and, making it overly competitive and onerous on the training. And, I think there's pros and cons of each, but I think we, certainly in all those squads I mentioned, we genuinely enjoy our swimming, but more importantly, we genuinely enjoy the people we're swimming with.
Yes.
And I think that's such a big part of Masters swimming.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you still, I know your relay world record was 4x50 freestyle, but are you still swimming a lot of breaststroke individually?
Well, I tried it last weekend, so, it's sort of been a while, but I haven't really done a lot individually. It's sort of the relay that would get me back into it, that if somebody said, we need you to do the breaststroke in the relay, then I'd end up doing the breaststroke individually. But, I think I only did the 4x25 breaststroke. I think I went about 15 flat. So, it's kind of okay without being outstanding. And like all of these things, you've got to practice it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, and a lot's changed. You forget that in 1990, when I set that record, the blocks were flat, not angled. There was no wedge at the back of the blocks. You weren't allowed to do a butterfly kick. It was only around late 80s that I think you stopped getting disqualified for putting your head underwater on each stroke. So before that, you used to have to swim with your head above water the whole time. So, when you talk about how do you get ready now, you've really got to adjust your stroke and teach yourself the new technique and make sure that all of that's working in your favour. But that's part of the journey and part of the fun. You get to, do it all again, learning something new and practicing some new skills.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And was there a time back then where you couldn't even bring your breaststroke recovery hands out of the water? They weren't allowed to break the surface.
Well no one did. I remember people putting hankies in their bathing caps to keep their head from going underwater. And, you couldn't even really, they were just starting to do the butterfly kick on the on sort of the recovery. But now it's so different how you swim it that you really need to learn it again.
Yes.
So it was good to dust off the skills and do it. But the other great thing about racing is you're sort of 80% happy with it, with the good things you've done, and 20% unsatisfied with all the things you've still got to improve. But
Yes.
that's what makes it great to show up at the pool again after the weekend you've been racing. You're thinking that was good, but there's so much more to do. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why racing is so good, even though personally I never feel like I'm ready to race, as you mentioned. But I think when you do, you find out where you're at, and you get more inspired as well, I think.
Yeah, I find you've got to trick yourself these days. You've got to go heavier on the belief. You've also got to sort of make yourself nervous again.
Yes.
Like when you're young, you're instantly nervous because it's time to race, and here you've got so many other things, and suddenly you've carved out the weekend or the day to race, and so for the half hour before you've got to get focused and make yourself nervous and then see what you're capable of. But you're sort of trying to trick the mind that you're ready to go when, for so many other reasons, you're not perfectly in shape, or there's a niggle with the shoulder or the knee, or something's been happening at work. But that is what makes it fun.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I mean, your little group of 4, you probably could go for the medley world record as well, medley relay world record, because James does butterfly, doesn't he?
We need to chop and change it up. Yeah, James is 5 times world short course 200 butterfly champion. So his butterfly is exceptional, but he also set the national record in the backstroke. Chris Feidler, people always think of him as a freestyler, but Chris is always reminding us he started life as a breaststroker. So
really,
we never quite hear the end of that from Chris. Yeah. So you're always trying to figure out how do you reassemble the team to give yourself the best chance, and that's a combination of age and distance and stroke, and that's no different to any other Masters team around the country, though. You're trying to put all the pieces of the jigsaw together to give yourself the best chance at doing something.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to ask you a few questions, a little deep dive as a bit of a snapshot of your swimming, and just a few favourites. So what is your favourite pool that you've ever swum at?
I think the Bondi Icebergs, just for the pure beauty of it. And, it is hard to have a bad swim at the Bondi Icebergs. It doesn't matter what mood you showed up in. The people there are great. There's nothing like having Neil on deck. And, just the beauty of getting hit by a wave. As I said at the beginning, like time and the pace clock is somewhat irrelevant. Sometimes you're a third of the way back and a big set comes over the edge of the pool and you have to bust out an 8-beat kick and you're still going nowhere. So I think that is a special place, and why so many people around the world, if you ask them, their top 10 pools, the Bondi Icebergs is always there.
It's always there.
Just a great place, great natural beauty, great people, good workouts, lots of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a popular answer to that question. I've had quite a few people have said that's their favourite. So yeah, it's definitely up there. And what about your favourite breaststroke training drill?
Breaststroke training drill. There's probably a few that come to mind. I like swimming breaststroke underwater, not with the pull down, just with the proper arms and kick, because I find that keeps my arms towards the front of my body so that I don't get the elbows caught back. I like doing sort of 2 strokes up and then 1 stroke down. I like doing a whole lap underwater and just working on the pull downs. Particularly, you're talking about something that's certainly half a lap short course underwater, so just working on the quality of the pull downs and getting those right. And then I just like working at all the little skills, the starts and turns, I think. So there's lots of little drills. Some are more your classic stroke drills, and some of them I think are just the techniques. I mean, so much of any race right now is done underwater, so your starts and your turns and your underwaters just become crucially important.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in short course. Yeah.
Some of the guys at Tats might say my favourite drill is never getting in or being in the sauna. Kind of. I still train like a sprinter. I think more technique work, higher quality, less distance, and enjoy the ride.
Oh, I think it sounds pretty good. What about your favourite pre-race snack?
Oh, what did I have this weekend? I think if you're talking while you're at the pool, still like the snake, still like the bananas. If I need a caffeine jolt, a can of Red Bull. If I just need to hydrate, bit of Gatorade. But I sort of put all of that together. I try to race light, so breakfast is always fairly light and something that isn't going to hang throughout the day. So that could be a banana, piece of toast, bit of honey. Pasta the night before. But when I'm at the pool, just all those sort of snacks that keep me caffeinated and sugared.
Yes. And how about your favourite swimming goggles? What's your pair that you use that you always go back to?
When I race, I always use the Speedo goggles, but the Opal ones for training, and then I use the racing goggles when I race, and occasionally when I'm training, if I want to go fast and concentrate on my technique, I take the goggles off.
Really?
I actually find I just internalise the stroke a little bit more when I don't have the goggles on. So occasionally I do that, but I think I'm a loyal Speedo man on the goggles.
Yeah, good to know. And how about your favourite training set for speed?
I like as I said, Chris does a lot of our sprint sets. So I kind of like the ones where you might be doing hundreds or 50s, but you're only doing sort of 12 and a half, and then you're doing a full 25, and then you're doing 37 and a half metres when you're doing short course. And you might be doing those hundreds, long rest. So you're never really doing more than 50 metres of each 100. And, you only need 5 or 10 100s like that, so that you're really working on your short, crisp speed work. So I like doing that a lot.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, it's a good one. Well, Guy, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been lovely connecting with you and hearing about your swim journey, and wishing you every success heading forward to that big age group change in Singapore.
There's always another age group. But no, look, it's been a pleasure speaking today, and I enjoy listening to your podcast all the time, and kind of nice, and feel very honoured to be on the other side of it. So thanks very much, Danielle.
You're welcome. Okay, take care.
Bye now.
Bye.